The rejection stung worse than the diagnosis. Stage 2 thyroid cancer. Treatable, thankfully caught early, but requiring immediate surgery and a few days of recovery. As a single mother to 6-year-old Emma, my first thought wasn't about my health, but about who would care for my daughter during my hospital stay. "I'm sorry, Amanda," Mom said over the phone, her voice carrying that artificial sweetness she used when delivering disappointing news. "Your father and I just can't take on that responsibility right now. We need our space, and you know how energetic Emma can be." I did know. My daughter was a whirlwind of creativity and motion, exactly like I had been at her age. According to the countless stories Mom used to proudly tell about my childhood. Used to, before everything changed. "It's just for 2 days, Mom," I pleaded, hating the desperation in my voice. "The surgery's on Thursday, and I should be home by Saturday. Emma can sleep in my old room." "That room's being renovated," she cut in quickly. "The whole house is under construction right now. It wouldn't be safe for a child." That was news to me. Renovated? For what? A pause. Too long. "Just some updates we've been meaning to do. Listen, honey. Have you considered hiring a professional sitter? Or maybe asking one of Emma's friends' parents?" The conversation ended shortly after, leaving me with a familiar hollow feeling in my chest that had nothing to do with my upcoming surgery. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the calendar where I'd optimistically penciled in Emma. Grandparents for Thursday and Friday. "Mommy?" Emma's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She stood in the doorway, clutching her beloved stuffed giraffe, Mr. Spots. "Can I have apple juice?" I pulled her into my lap, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "How about we call Aunt Jessica instead?" My best friend since college answered on the first ring, and within minutes, the childcare crisis was solved. Jessica would take Emma for the surgery days, even though she had her hands full with her own twins. Your parents said no again. She asked after we'd worked out the logistics. "They need their space," I quoted bitterly. "Their space," Jessica repeated slowly. "Amanda, have you talked to Michael lately?" Michael, my younger brother, the family golden child. "Not since party." "Why?" "Karen from my yoga class mentioned seeing your mom at Home Depot yesterday. They were looking at kitchen fixtures for the new family suite. They're adding for Michael and his family." The hollow feeling in my chest expanded into a void. "That's impossible," I said. "Michael lives in Seattle. He loves his job there." "Apparently not anymore. Karen said the startup he was working for folded, and he's moving back here with Lisa and the kids. Your parents are converting their house to accommodate them all." My head spun. The renovation Mom had mentioned. It wasn't just random updates. They were creating space for my brother's family, while telling me they needed space for themselves. I ended the call with Jessica and did something I hadn't done in months. I drove to my parents' house. The evidence was impossible to miss. A construction dumpster sat in the driveway, filled with debris. A contractor's truck was parked on the street, and the sounds of power tools echoed from inside. Mom answered my knock with paint in her hair and guilt on her face. "Amanda, we weren't expecting you." "Clearly," I said, looking past her at the chaos inside. The living room was half demolished, with new framing suggesting the space was being divided into additional bedrooms. "I can explain," she started, but Dad's voice interrupted from inside. "Is that Amanda? Perfect timing. Maybe she can help us decide on colors for the kids' rooms. Michael said the boys aren't picky, but Sophia wants purple." He appeared behind Mom, his enthusiasm fading as he saw my expression. "When were you going to tell me?" I asked quietly. That you're converting your house into a family compound for Michael while telling me you need space. It's not like that, Mom protested. Michael's in a difficult situation. The startup failed. They lost their house. And I have cancer, I said flatly, watching them both flinch. But sure, let's talk about Michael's difficult situation. Dad at least had the grace to look ashamed. The cancer's treatable, honey. You said so yourself. Yes. And I just needed 2 days of help with Emma while I have surgery. 2 days, not a house renovation. That's different, Mom insisted. Michael needs long-term support. They have 3 children to think about. And I have one. One child you've barely seen in the past year because you're always too busy or need space. One grandchild who asks me every week why Grandma and Grandpa don't want to play with her anymore. We love Emma, Dad said quickly. Of course we do. It's just what? Just that Michael's situation is more complicated. They're losing everything, Amanda. They need family support. I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. And I don't? Single mother. Cancer diagnosis. Asking for 2 days of help. That's not complicated enough. Mom wrung her hands, paint flaking onto her clothes. You're stronger than Michael. You've always been independent. You've always handled things on your own. Because I had to. The words burst out louder than I intended. Because every time I needed help, there was some reason why you couldn't. Meanwhile, Michael gets unlimited support for every crisis, every bad decision, every failed venture. That's not fair, Dad started, but I cut him off. Not fair. Let's talk about fair. Remember when Emma was born and I asked if you could help for a few weeks while I recovered from the C-section? You said you were too old for baby duty, but now you're converting your house into a multi-generational home for Michael's kids. That was different, Mom protested weakly. How? How was it different? Neither of them answered. When Emma's father left, and I asked if I could move back home for a few months until I found a job that could cover daycare costs, you said I needed to learn independence. But Michael loses his job and gets a whole house renovation. Still silence. Every time I've needed help, you've had an excuse. Too tired, too busy, need space, not up for childcare. I learned to stop asking. I built my own support system, found friends who actually showed up, created a life that didn't depend on you. And you know what? That would have been fine if you treated all your children the same way. We don't play favorites, Dad said, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Really? Then why is Michael's family worth renovating your entire house for, while my daughter and I aren't worth 2 days of your time? A crash from inside saved them from answering. The contractor called out that something about the plumbing wasn't up to code. We should check on that, Mom said, clearly relieved for the escape. Don't worry, I said, stepping back. I won't take up any more of your space. Amanda, wait, Dad called. About the surgery, maybe we could. Don't bother. Jessica's taking Emma. She's got twins of her own and works full-time. But somehow she can manage 2 days with my daughter. Imagine that. I turned to leave, but paused on the steps. You know what the worst part is? Emma still loves you. Still draws pictures of her grandparents. Still tells her friends about how amazing you are. She has no idea you've chosen one side of the family over the other. That's not what we're doing, Mom whispered. No. Then what would you call it? Another crash from inside. Another call for their attention. Go, I said. Your chosen family needs you. Driving home, I passed the local community center where Emma takes swimming lessons. The instructor there once told me something that suddenly seemed relevant. Some people float naturally, while others sink. But the ones who become the strongest swimmers are usually the ones who had to learn to save themselves. I'd been saving myself, and Emma, for years. Maybe it was time to stop hoping for a life jacket from people who'd made it clear they only had enough buoyancy aids for one side of the family. When I got home, Emma was drawing at the kitchen table. Another picture for her grandparents, no doubt. "Mommy," she said, looking up with those huge brown eyes, "can we have pizza for dinner?" "Sure, baby. And how about we make some thank you cards for Aunt Jessica for being such a good friend to us? Because sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And sometimes the space others claim to need is actually the space you needed all along, to grow, to heal, and to build something stronger than the foundations you were given." The surgery date approached faster than I expected. 2 days before the procedure, while I was making final arrangements with Jessica, my phone lit up with Michael's name. We hadn't spoken since he texted Party 4 months ago. "Hey, sis." His voice carried that familiar mix of charm and hesitation that usually preceded a request. "Mom told me about your surgery." "That's rough. Did she tell you before or after you discussed paint colors for your kids' rooms?" I couldn't help asking. A pause. "So you know about that. Hard to miss a full house renovation, Michael. Congratulations on the upgrade from Seattle." "Look, it's not what you think. We're in a tough spot." "Aren't we all?" I interrupted, watching Emma through the window as she played in our small backyard. But somehow my tough spots never warranted a home addition. "That's different," he said, echoing our parents. "You've always been the strong one." Strong doesn't mean invincible, Michael. It just means I learned not to ask for help because I knew the answer would always be no. He sighed heavily. I didn't call to argue. I called because, well, Lisa and I were thinking. Maybe Emma could stay with us during your surgery? We're temporarily in a rental near Mom and Dad's while the renovation is happening. The offer caught me off guard. "With you?" "Yeah. I mean, she could play with her cousins. It might be fun for her." For a moment, I was tempted. Emma had met her cousins only twice, but she talked about them often. Then reality set in. "When was the last time you took care of a 6-year-old, Michael?" "I have 3 kids of my own." "Yes, and Lisa handles most of the childcare. Remember Party? You couldn't even manage to watch them for an hour while she cooked dinner." "That's not fair. Besides," I cut him off, "Jessica's already arranged everything. Emma's comfortable with her twins, and they have a routine." "Mom feels bad," he said quietly, "about not being able to help." "No, Mom feels guilty. There's a difference, and you calling to play mediator doesn't change anything." After hanging up, I found Emma in the backyard, creating an elaborate story with her dolls. One doll was apparently a doctor, treating another doll for a butterfly in her neck. Her 6-year-old interpretation of my thyroid condition. "Mommy," she asked, looking up, "will I have to get butterflies in my neck too when I grow up?" I sat beside her in the grass. "No, baby, and my butterfly is going to fly away after the doctors help me. Like when we helped that hurt bird. Last spring, we'd found an injured sparrow and taken it to a wildlife rehabilitator. Emma had been fascinated by the process, visiting weekly until the bird was strong enough to be released. Exactly like that. Sometimes we all need help getting better. Is that why I'm staying with Aunt Jessica? To help you get better?" "Yes, and because Aunt Jessica is family. Emma tilted her head, but not like Grandma and Grandpa. Family isn't just about who you're related to, I explained, choosing my words carefully. It's about who shows up when you need them. The day before surgery, Mom called again. We could rearrange some things, she offered. Maybe put the renovation on hold for a few days. Don't bother, I said. Emma's excited about staying with her best friends. They're not family, Mom protested. Aren't they? Jessica was there when Emma took her first steps. She hosted her 5th birthday party when you and Dad were too tired to come. She takes her to the park every Sunday so I can have a break. Amanda, you're being difficult. No, Mom. I'm being honest. There's a difference. The morning of the surgery, Jessica arrived early, helping me pack Emma's favorite pajamas and Mr. Spots. Emma was bouncing with excitement about the upcoming sleepover, barely acknowledging my anxiety about the procedure. The twins set up a blanket fort in their playroom, Jessica told her, and were making pizza for dinner. Can we call Mommy before bed? Emma asked. Of course, and tomorrow after she's done with the doctors. As they prepared to leave, Jessica hugged me tightly. Everything's going to be fine. We've got this. Thank you, I whispered, fighting tears. For everything. That's what family does, she replied simply. At the hospital, as I was being prepped for surgery, my phone buzzed with texts. Not from my parents or Michael, but from Jessica's mom, Linda, who'd insisted on sitting with me during the procedure. Parking now, bringing your favorite magazines and terrible jokes. Linda, who'd unofficially adopted me years ago when she saw how alone I was as a new single mother, who brought dinner every Wednesday and never forgot Emma's birthday. Your support squad is here, she announced, walking into my room, and Emma just sent me a video of their pizza-making adventure. Want to see? The clip showed Emma and the twins covered in flour, giggling as they attempted to toss dough in the air. Happy, safe, loved. As they wheeled me into surgery, I realized something important. While my biological family was busy renovating their house, my chosen family had already built something far more valuable, a foundation of unconditional support. The surgery was successful, though recovery in the hospital was harder than expected. I drifted in and out of consciousness that first day, each time waking to find Linda still there, reading or working on her laptop. Jessica sent more videos, she'd say, showing me clips of Emma playing, crafting, living her best life despite my absence. On the second day, Mom and Dad showed up briefly, looking uncomfortable in the hospital room. We brought flowers, Mom said, placing a generic bouquet on the windowsill. The renovation team needed guidance today, Dad explained when they left after only 15 minutes. But we wanted to check in. Of course they did, Linda muttered after they'd gone. Heaven forbid the contractor pick out light fixtures without supervision. That evening, Michael's wife Lisa brought their kids to Jessica's house to play with Emma. Not out of obligation, but because Lisa had always been kinder than my brother, more understanding of family dynamics. The kids had a blast, Jessica reported during our nightly video call. Emma taught her cousins how to make friendship bracelets. Did Michael come? I asked, already knowing the answer. No, he was busy with contractor meetings. Of course he was. When I was finally discharged, it wasn't my parents who picked me up, but Linda and her husband, Tom. Not my brother who helped set up my recovery space at home, but Jessica's husband, Mark, who installed a shower chair and raised toilet seat without being asked. And when Emma finally came home, bursting with stories about her adventure with her best cousin friends, She didn't ask why Grandma and Grandpa hadn't visited. She was too busy showing me the care package her bonus family had put together. Homemade cards, simple meals prepped for easy reheating, and a handmade quilt from Linda's sewing group. "Look, Mommy," Emma exclaimed, pulling out a photo album. "Aunt Jessica helped us make this." Inside were pictures from her stay. Emma and the twins in their blanket fort, pizza-making chaos, park adventures, and bedtime stories. A chronicle of love, not from obligation, but from choice. "Your village showed up," Linda said, squeezing my hand. Yes, they had. While my parents were busy creating space for Michael's family, my chosen family had already built something far more precious. A community where Emma and I didn't have to beg for scraps of attention or justify our need for support. 3 weeks into my recovery, the dynamics of both my biological and chosen families became crystal clear. While my parents sent the occasional text to check in, it was my village that kept our lives running smoothly. Jessica's twins took it upon themselves to be Emma's personal entertainment committee, FaceTiming her daily to share homework struggles and playground gossip. Linda kept our fridge stocked with homemade meals, and Tom insisted on mowing our lawn, because that's what dads do. Then came the invitation that changed everything. "We're having a housewarming," Mom announced over the phone. "Once the renovation is complete. Michael and his family will be fully moved in by then." "How nice," I said flatly, watching Emma and the twins playing in our backyard through the kitchen window. They were building what they called a fairy hospital out of twigs and leaves. "We'd love for you and Emma to come," she continued. "The contractors did an amazing job. You won't believe the transformation." I bet I wouldn't. "When is it?" "Next Saturday. We're having a big family barbecue to welcome Michael's family home." Home. The word stuck in my throat. "I'll check our calendar," I said, already knowing we had plans with Jessica's family for their annual summer picnic. "Amanda," Mom sighed, "I know things have been strained, but we're still family." "Are we?" Because from where I'm standing, family looks very different from what you're showing me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. "Your father and I have been talking," she finally said. "We realize we maybe haven't been as equitable in our support." "Maybe?" Michael needed. "Stop," I interrupted. "Just stop." Every sentence that starts with "Michael needed" ends with an excuse for why my needs didn't matter. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is watching my daughter draw pictures for grandparents who can't spare 2 days for her, but can rebuild their entire house for her cousins. Another silence. "We'd really like you to come to the housewarming," she said quietly. I looked again at Emma playing outside. She was showing her cousins the fairy medical charts she'd made, inspired by my recent hospital stay. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. That evening, during our weekly dinner at Jessica's house, I told them about the invitation. "You should go," Jessica said, surprising me. "Take Emma to see her cousins. Let her form her own relationships, independent of the adult drama. And let them see what they're missing." Linda added, passing me more lasagna. "Show them the strong, successful woman you've become without their help." Besides, Tom chimed in, it might be entertaining to watch them try to justify turning their house into the Michael Fan Club headquarters. The kids, eating at their own table, erupted in giggles over something. Their laughter, a reminder that sometimes innocent joy transcends complicated adult relationships. "Okay," I decided. "We'll go, but we're leaving early for the picnic." The day of the housewarming arrived with perfect weather and knots in my stomach. Emma, excited to see her cousins again, wore her favorite butterfly dress, a gift from Jessica. The transformation of my childhood home was stunning. The once modest house had been expanded with a 2-story addition. New windows gleamed, fresh landscaping brightened the yard, and a massive playground set dominated the backyard. "Welcome," Mom called from the front door, wearing a new dress and a nervous smile. "The kids are all in the backyard." Emma ran off to join her cousins while I followed Mom inside. The interior renovation was even more impressive. The kitchen had doubled in size, flowing into a great room clearly designed for a large family. New bedrooms had been added, each with an en-suite bathroom. "This is Michael and Lisa's wing," Mom explained, leading me through. "And upstairs is the kids' area." "Must have cost a fortune," I observed. "Well, you know, family investments." "Right, family investments." Michael appeared then, looking tanned and relaxed despite his recent financial collapse. "Sis, you made it." He moved to hug me, but I stepped back. "Nice setup you've got here." He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "Yeah, Mom and Dad have been amazing. You know how they are." "Do I?" The afternoon progressed with an odd tension. Other relatives arrived, oohing and eyeing over the renovation. Michael's kids showed off their rooms, Lisa gave tours of their apartment wing, and my parents beamed with pride at their generosity. Emma, oblivious to the undercurrents, had a blast with her cousins. They played on the new playground, had water balloon fights, and existed in that magical space where adult complications don't matter. Then came the toast. "We want to thank everyone for coming," Dad said, raising his glass. "This renovation represents our commitment to family, to being there for each other in times of need." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not loudly, but enough that heads turned. "Something funny, Amanda?" Mom asked tightly. "Just appreciating the irony," I said, standing. "Please, continue your speech about family commitment." "Amanda," Michael warned. "No, really. Tell us more about being there in times of need. About supporting family. About showing up when it matters." "This isn't the time," Mom said. "When is the time?" "When I needed you during my divorce. When Emma was born. During my cancer surgery. Or only when Michael needs something." The gathered relatives shifted uncomfortably. "Your situation was different," Dad started. "Yes, it was. Because I didn't fail at business after making terrible decisions. I didn't lose a house because of risky investments. I simply needed parents who showed up." "We're showing up now," Mom protested. "No, you're showing up for him. You've always shown up for him. The rest of us just get to watch from the sidelines." Michael stepped forward. "Look, I know you're upset." "I'm not upset, Michael. I'm done. Done pretending this is normal. Done watching Emma hope for attention from grandparents who can renovate a house but can't spend 2 days with their granddaughter." I turned to my parents. "Congratulations on your beautiful new family compound. Emma and I have a picnic to attend, with people who actually show up." "Amanda, please," Mom called as I gathered Emma. "No, Mom. You made your choices. Multiple times. Now you get to live with them." Emma, confused by the tension, hugged her cousins goodbye. "Can they come to our house sometime?" she asked as we left. "Of course, baby. Family is always welcome at our house. Real family." As we drove to Jessica's for the picnic, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives. Some were supportive, some critical, all missing the point. The contrast between the two gatherings couldn't have been starker. At Jessica's, kids ran through sprinklers while adults grilled and chatted. No one was showing off renovations or making speeches about family commitment. They were simply being family. "Everything okay?" Jessica asked, noting my quiet mood. "Just thinking about the difference between houses and homes." She nodded, understanding. "You know, when I first met you in college, I thought you were the strongest person I knew. Now I realize you're not just strong. You're wise enough to build your own foundation." Emma ran past us, soaking wet and laughing with the twins. "Look what you built," Jessica continued. "Not a house addition, but something better. A home where love doesn't come with conditions." That evening, as we gathered for Linda's famous barbecue, I watched Emma with her Bomis family. She belonged here, among people who loved her simply because she existed, not out of obligation or blood ties. My phone buzzed again. Mom, trying to smooth things over. I turned it off. Sometimes the biggest renovations aren't the ones you can see. They're the ones that happen in your heart, when you finally accept that family is more about choice than chance. And sometimes, the strongest foundations are built not with concrete and steel, but with love that shows up, day after day, without requiring a construction permit. A month after the housewarming incident, the ripple effects were still spreading through both families. My parents alternated between guilt-laden texts and defensive justifications. Michael sent awkward attempts at peacemaking, while Lisa quietly arranged playdates between the cousins at neutral locations like the park or mall. But the most surprising development came from an unexpected source: my Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, who had been conspicuously quiet at the housewarming. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told me over coffee one morning, "about showing up. I didn't realize how much I'd failed you too." She brought photo albums, pictures spanning decades. In almost every family gathering shot, there was a pattern I'd never noticed before. Michael at the center, the rest of us orbiting like lesser planets around a sun. "Your mother, she always had a blind spot when it came to Michael," Susan admitted. We all saw it, but it was easier to stay quiet. Easier for who? Exactly. She sighed, flipping to a picture of Emma's first birthday, a small affair because my parents had been too tired to host it at their house. "We let you handle everything alone because you could, because you were strong. That wasn't fair." Meanwhile, life with my chosen family continued to flourish. Emma's Ferry Hospital in Jessica's backyard had evolved into a full-blown summer project, with all the kids contributing to its construction. They'd even started a medical school where they treated stuffed animals, an idea inspired by my recovery. Dr. Emma, as she now insisted on being called during play, had developed a special interest in helping others. "Because that's what real family does," she explained seriously to her patients. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then came the day Michael showed up at my door alone. "Can we talk?" he asked, looking uncomfortable in his new construction company polo shirt, a far cry from his former startup CEO attire. We sat in my small backyard, where Emma's own Ferry Hospital branch office was under construction. "I'd been thinking," he started, "about what you said at the housewarming, about showing up. And you're right. I've been the favorite for so long I stopped seeing it. Stopped seeing how it hurt you." He picked up one of Emma's Ferry medical charts and smiled at the crayon drawings. "Lisa pointed out something interesting," he continued. "While Mom and Dad were rebuilding the house for us, you built something too, something better." "Oh, a real support system. Friends who became family. A place where Emma never has to wonder if she matters enough." He set down the chart carefully. I want my kids to have that too. Not just a fancy house, but real connections, like what Emma has with Jessica's twins. It takes work, I told him. Showing up isn't just about grand gestures or renovations. It's about the small moments, the everyday choices. I know. That's why. He hesitated. That's why I turned down the Master Suite edition Mom wanted to build. That surprised me. You did? Yeah. Told them to donate that money to the Children's Hospital instead, the one where Emma found her fairy inspiration. It wasn't everything. It didn't erase years of favoritism or guarantee our parents would suddenly become equitable in their support. But it was a start. The cousins want to join Emma's Fairy Hospital staff, he added with a small smile, if that's okay. And so, on a warm Saturday afternoon, our children played together in a backyard hospital made of twigs and dreams, treating stuffed animals with bandages of leaves and prescriptions written in crayon. Jessica's twins were the senior doctors, having graduated from the original Fairy Medical School. Emma was the chief of medicine, taking her role very seriously. Michael's kids were the eager new interns, learning that sometimes the best medicine is simply showing up. Linda brought lemonade for the medical staff. Tom helped expand the hospital's west wing with new branches. And if my parents noticed they weren't invited to the hospital's grand opening ceremony, well, some lessons take time to learn. Because sometimes the biggest changes start small, with fairy hospitals and stuffed animal patients, with brothers learning humility and parents facing their failures. And sometimes the strongest families aren't the ones living in renovated mansions, but the ones who build healing spaces in backyards, treating wounded hearts with love, time, and the simple act of being there. Dr. Emma, I heard my daughter tell her cousins seriously, the most important medicine is love. That's what Aunt Jessica taught me. Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. The truth about family, after all, isn't written in renovation plans or blood ties. It's written in fairy medical charts and crayon prescriptions, in lemonade deliveries and backyard hospitals.